All right.
All right, Linda. Well, it's so good to see you again. I enjoyed our conversation. Was that a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
It was last week. Yeah.
Was it already?
Yeah. Apparently we're a weekly thing already.
Already. There you go. Well, I enjoyed it, and I wanted to invite you back to share what you do. Um, and because I think it's very important. So why don't you kind of give me, to start off, give me a little bit of overview of you, and then tell us a little bit about what you're talking about today. I don't want to give it away. I want you to give it away.
Okay, I get to give it away. Okay, so my name is Lynda B Herring. I'm a California licensed private investigator. I've been in the industry for 42 years. I do many types of investigations, asset searches, background checks, tenant screenings, cyber crimes, locates, anything you can think of, I investigate. But I am very, very passionate and active in the fight against trafficking, especially of children. So I do a lot of work in that particular area, including locates, rescues, and then, presenting workshops and presentations, teaching parents and kids how to hopefully stay safe.
That's so wonderful. It's heartwarming, but I'm sure that there are days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the most gratifying work I do, and it's also the work I wish didn't exist. So, yeah.
Exactly. I think a lot of us do. But I won't go into all the sincerities and boo-hoos because you are making a difference. And that's what we need. It's easy to get into, oh me, oh my, what am I to do? I'm just one person. But I am one person. So I can't do everything, but I can do something. And so I want you to uh, tell us what that one something thing in your program is to help our audience out there for the coffee chat with Ann Payton.
Okay. That one something is really learning the signs, what to look for, how to protect your kids. And I talk to kids, little kids, middle school age kids, high school kids, college kids, parents, anyone who knows a child really needs this information. I do have a top 10 list of things to look for. If we want to jump into that, we can. And that's something that I focus on a lot. One of my presentations is titled, How Well Do You Know Your Child? And that's because a lot of parents don't have a clue what their kids are doing online. And that's not putting down the parents, because it's not the parents' fault, it's the predator's fault when these things happen. But they do need to know what to look for.
Exactly. Well, if you want to start however you want to start, if you want to start with your top 10 and then go into a little bit about that, you're the expert, so I'm gonna sit back, relax, and let you work.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to go through the top 10. I might elaborate on some of them, but this is something that I hand out when I speak. And I think, at least in my mind, they're the 10 most important things. So number one is, if a young child under the age of 11 has a phone, they should only be able to call mom, dad, 911, maybe, another trusted adult. They should not have internet access. And part of the reason for that is that the average age that a child sees pornography for the first time these days is 8. And it's usually on their friend's smartphone out on the playground at school. Heartbreaking, terrible. Kids need to be able to be kids, not exposed to that. So that's my number one.
I could say, how can that be? But I know that would take another half an hour. So go on.
Yeah. So number two, keep your children away from online games and apps. Every online game and app has a chat room where predators lie in wait. According to the FBI, there are approximately 500,000 predators online at any given time. So there's 500,000 monsters out there just waiting to talk to your child. And they're experts. Yeah, at any one time, day or night, 24 hours a day. Number three is all electronics, phones, tablets, etc., should be kept outside a child's bedroom at night. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, between 67 and 78% of children sleep with their electronics. So if they can't sleep, who are they talking to? These
So,
monsters that are waiting.
so did you just say that 60 or 70% of the children can't sleep without their electronics?
It's not that they can't sleep without them. They just take
Oh,
them
but they
with
want,
them.
they
They
do. Oh,
want
okay.
to. They
They
want them by
want
their
to.
side at every moment. And that's
Okay.
just, it's not safe. So they should have their electronics should be like, in the family room or the kitchen or somewhere being charged when the kids go to bed.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So they're not there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Number 4 is the first question a predator asks a child in a chat room typically is, how old are you? I play an online bingo game every now and then. And in there, my avatar is a picture of one of my doggies that lives, in doggy heaven. And my name is Kira, which is her name. And I'll be playing and the little chat thing will pop up every now and then. And someone will say, Kira, how old are you? And because I can't help myself, I say 12. And then sometimes I talk to them and
Good for you.
try to get information out of them that can, be used against them. But what I love is more and more often now when I say I'm 12, someone else in that chat room pops in and says, don't talk to that person. So I love that. That means word is getting out that that's a dangerous thing.
Oh my goodness, praise Lord.
Yeah, it's a really
Oh my
good
goodness.
thing. Yeah. So I love that they're, and I applaud them. I'm like, oh, you guys, that was awesome because I'm really, trying to catch
Right.
these people. So I love that. It's been a long, long time coming because for the longest time people didn't pay attention to that. And then number 5 is if your child's new friend asks him or her to change chat locations or apps, that's the same as being kidnapped and taken to a second location. So, someone grabs you on the street, you don't want to get in that car and let them take you to a second place.
Mhm.
Being asked to move from one app to a different app is the same thing online. It's like being kidnapped.
Can you expand on that? Because I'm not sure I quite understand.
For instance, if the person that says, how old are you to me in the chat on the bingo game, when I say I'm 12, they usually say, let's go somewhere else to talk. Meet me in my chat on Instagram or on Snapchat or somewhere else, or on WhatsApp is pretty popular, or Tiny Chat. So, yeah, they want to move you to their app of choice, if that makes sense, just to get you out of the spot where someone else might see you talking, someplace
Okay.
more private.
Okay. Gotcha.
And it takes only 8 minutes for a predator to gain the trust of a child. And that's according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That's scary. 8 minutes of someone talking to your child, a total stranger talking to your child online, can get them to trust them.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and these predators are known to use multiple apps when communicating with and grooming potential victims. They'll, like I said, they can move them to Facebook, Messenger, anywhere, any place that has a chat. But they always want to move them out of the original spot where they found them.
Okay. More privacy.
Yeah. Because, yeah, someone's obviously not going to ask me a bunch of questions in the chat on a bingo game where
Right.
anybody can see it, right? So they want a more private, like, let's go talk privately over here in this room instead. And kids
Okay.
will follow along. And even smart kids that, you think would know better, they still will follow them.
Well, even smart adults probably, because I
Yes.
don't do a lot of games, but when I do play games on my phone, I could see because of the, not much experience that I would fall. But of course, I'm not going to meet anybody. Anyhow, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
but that's how romance scams start too with adults. So
Well,
it happens.
that'd be
Yes.
another show.
That would
Yeah.
be another show. Number 6 is remain vigilant in looking for changes in your child's personality and actions, which could indicate they're being groomed. And there are a lot of signs of a child possibly being groomed. And the most significant ones are probably they don't sleep because they're up all night talking to their person. Their grades might, fall because they're not sleeping. It's not uncommon for them to start cutting, or they become anorexic or bulimic because they're so stressed. Sometimes there's changes in their clothing. They might, suddenly color their hair like I need to. A change in their hair color, change in their makeup. All of a sudden they're getting their nails done. just different things. Sometimes a child will go from being very introverted to very extroverted. So a personality change. They
Mhm.
might suddenly have another phone that you don't know where it came from. Or they might suddenly have expensive gifts that they can't, things they can't afford, all of a sudden they have because their new so-called friend is sending them gifts to try to get them to do what that so-called friend wants them to do.
So that's part of what you're calling grooming.
Yeah.
And for some of us that need to know a little more on that, can you expand on grooming and then how they're getting these gifts?
Grooming is when they're I'm trying to think of the easiest way, the quickest way to describe it. They're trying to make friends. They're trying to gain their trust. A lot of times these people that are, as they call grooming them, will try to get them, they love bomb them, for lack of a better word. And that happens in romance scams too, a different show. But all of a sudden it's like, I will give you everything your parents refuse to give you, or I will take care of you. I'll give you beautiful clothes that, you only dreamed about. I'll, set you up in a castle. You're the most beautiful girl in the world. They just really over the top kind of
Okay.
try to rope them in, and it works, unfortunately.
Okay.
And then they'll try to get them either to send them photos that are inappropriate, a video that's inappropriate, that they might use to kind of extort them into meeting with them in person, or they just convince them to meet. There are teenage kids that take off to go meet strangers. People they think that, people they met online that they, someone that they think is 12 or 13, and it's really a 45-year-old man when they go out there and meet them, or, a 25-year-old man who is way too old
Right.
if you're 12 or 13. Yeah.
So how are they getting gifts?
Sometimes they randomly show up at the house because the
They
kids
give,
give away where they live. Kids are not really good at keeping private information private, which is very, very important, obviously. When
okay.
they're talking to these people like, oh, where do you live? What school do you go to? Where do you play sports? Where do you hang out? They find places where they're going and, where they can contact them or where they can send something. Yeah, it's scary.
It's very scary.
It is. And it's growing. So this whole thing is growing bigger and bigger. So number 7 is if your child who is under the age of 18 has online access of any type via a phone, tablet, computer, you, the parent, whoever owns the phone technically, because they signed the contract for the phone, should know all the apps the kid uses and have all their passwords to their apps, as well as the passcode to the phone. They should have all access. It's a
Okay.
good idea to maybe have a contract with the kids when you give them the phone. Or as a friend of mine says, make it very clear to the child, this is my phone. I'm loaning it to you to use. Because if they're under the age of 18, they can't legally sign a contract for the phone. It belongs to the parents.
Right.
And the reason I say that, it's not to violate their privacy or because, you want to spy on them. But if something goes wrong, if they go missing, if they run away to go meet somebody, or they get grabbed somewhere or whatever, that information comes in really, really handy for law enforcement, for me, for whoever's trying to find them, to help find them more quickly. So it's not, I tell my clients to have the passwords written down in a sealed envelope somewhere safe, not taped up on the wall by the computer,
On
but
the
somewhere,
refrigerator.
right? And I know kids can change their passwords, so it's not, a perfect plan, but it helps. And part of that is a lot of parents only know their kids, top 1 or 2 apps that they use. And most kids are on 12 to 14 apps.
Wow.
So you want to know where they are and where they're hanging out. It's very, very important. I mean, you wouldn't let your
Okay.
little kid just go wander off and not have a clue where they are. It's the
No.
same thing online. So, and people
Right.
don't think about that, but it's the same online. They can wander off and get in trouble.
Yeah, and I think, not that the older generations, but we don't, it's just harder for my brain to grasp that. I went through a time with my children where I was anxious about always making sure, okay, 1, 2, 3, they're all there. And now it's cyberspace.
Right. And cyberspace is huge, 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 huge.
My
So,
goodness.
and kids don't think that who they're talking to online is real. You know, they'll think, oh, we can play around and say whatever we want to whoever we want. It is
Right.
real. And that comes to
It's
the next one. My next point here, number 8, is if your child needs to know that once they send a photo or a video out on the internet, it's gone. There's no way to get it back
okay.
because they are being convinced to send a nude photo or a, you know, very compromising video or something to these people that will try to get money out of these kids and say, I'll give it back to you if you pay me. Well, no, the bad guys already sent that thing out to their group of friends, so to speak, fellow monsters. There's no way to get it back. But they convince kids to go meet them in person, and the kids are thinking they're going to somehow get this electronic thing back.
You're back.
Yeah, so there's no way to get it back. It's gone. It's gone forever. Once anything's out on the internet, it's permanent out there. You can think you took it down, but it's there. Someone can find it. And these bad guys are not going to send back a photo or a video they got. They're selling it to someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they need to know we all thought we were invincible when we were teenagers and nothing's going to happen, but it happens every
Right.
day. Yeah, I mean, kids are killing themselves over this stuff. It's terrible.
Well, the world is changing, and it's changing fast.
Yes, it really
So
is.
we need people like you that keep us up to date. So go ahead.
Number 9 is open communication is extremely important. Your child or children need to know they can talk to you about anything. I always use this example. When I was 9 years old, I was a dancer. When I was 9, one of the little girls at the dance studio was being molested by her dad. And I went home and I told my mom, and she slapped me for talking that way.
Oh my.
Because we didn't talk that way at our house. So from that point on, I mean, I was only 9, but I found someone else to talk to. I talked to my dance teacher or my grandmother or somebody else, but I should have been able to go home. Any kid should be able to go home and tell their parent pretty much anything. And it might be uncomfortable, it might be embarrassing, whatever, get over it.
Right. Save that
Don't get
child.
mad at the kid. Let the kid talk. That's really,
Right.
really important.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
And that happens a lot. And, a kid will find someone to talk to. If they can't talk to their parent, they're going to find someone, and that can backfire.
Big
So it's
time.
much better if it's a trusted adult, someone in the family, someone that you know. And then my number 10 is always be sure your children know you believe in them no matter what. And that's if a kid comes to you and says, so-and-so did this to me, or,
Right.
was doing something that's making me uncomfortable, or I'm scared. You don't act like they're, you believe them, you follow up. It's very, very rare for a child to make up something like that. Even a teenager, they don't tend to make up something like that when it's that serious that they were, raped, molested, convinced to send a photo, whatever, anything like that.
Right.
You got to believe them.
That's an uncomfortable subject. Why would you bring something up like that to your parents if it wasn't for real?
Right. And
I mean,
so
it's
many.
hard enough already to speak about sexuality with your parents, then let alone admit something like that.
Right. Right. I had a case not too terribly long ago with a teenage boy who he called me after he had been sextorted. And I said, did you tell your parents? Well, I tried to tell my dad, but he wouldn't listen.
Oh,
And it was heartbreaking. I was like, oh my gosh. So he called me a total stranger because he was hoping that I could help him. And I did. And I ended up talking to the parents as well. So I was able to help, but I shouldn't have been the first person that he felt he could talk to. I'm a total stranger.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my ignorance. What's sextorting?
Okay, sextorting is when someone online convinces the victim to send them a photo or a video that's compromising. They always want it to show their face. So it's a face and, other body parts that no one should see except you or your spouse when you get married, whatever. But yeah, a nude photo, a nude video. And then as soon as they send it, as soon as the kids send it, then the person on the other end who's been flirting with them and telling how wonderful they are demands money. And they say if they don't get the money, then they're going to distribute the photos or the video to the victim's friends and family and school. And, you know, devastating. It would be devastating if that happened to a kid. They don't normally actually do that. But like I said, once they get those photos or videos, the perpetrators instantly send them out to their fellow pedophiles. They go that way. But it's
Right.
it's a money-making scheme. Usually and boys between like 14 and 17 are the most common targets right now. And like I said, they've been committing suicide because they don't know what to do. They'll send out this video or their photo in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden this person that they thought was this sweet
Was
young
there?
lady is
Right.
demanding money. And there have been documented cases. There's one in the court system right now where these people basically encourage the kids to kill themselves. Because the victim's like, I might as well just kill myself. And they'll actually, the perpetrator will write back and go, well, you might as well, you're already dead anyway. Like they're just cold. It's all about the
Oh
money.
my.
They don't care. Yeah, there's all kinds of, the FBI has been talking about it a lot. So you can actually Google sextortion. And the FBI, they've had a lot of articles lately about it with ongoing cases. And unfortunately, it's getting more common.
I
And most of the kids are not at-risk kids, which is kind of important. They're kids that are good students, athletes, you know, successful, popular. And so it's not like some insecure person sitting in their room that just is craving a friend.
right.
And that's because these people are such master manipulators. They convince them to do these things.
I guess I'm a little bit dumbfounded. That would be hard to stand up to even as a young adult.
Mhm.
Um, like in college and someone's trying to sextort you
Yeah, and it's
with
happening.
things.
I did what we called a safety talk with a group of young adults not too long ago. And I thought their parents, they were from two different families. There were six of them, six kids. And their parents were from two different families. And those parents, you know, thought they were on top of things and,
Right.
you know, making sure their kids were safe. And when I first started the presentation, I was like, feel free to roll your eyes or whatever, you know, I'm sure you're going to know most of what I'm going to talk about. And when we got done, they said they'd never heard like 95% of what I said.
Right.
So even these parents that were doing a great job trying to, you know, protect their kids, the kids still were like, oh no, I didn't know that was dangerous. I didn't know that could happen. So yeah, that's why I make such a big deal about trying to get people to attend my workshops, and which are via Zoom and free. So it's not like
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I'm going to want to get all that information. Do you have time to go further and talk about, or is there anything more on those? I'm sorry, I'm having to take a breath here.
That's okay. That's my
It's
top 10, but I can talk for hours on this. So but those are like the main things. And yeah,
okay.
I can